It's high time we took another look at Hell Let Loose. They've just launched their big Update 7. This is a game that always had lots of high points and promise for when we looked at it before, so I'm interested to know whether this latest update has taken aim at those previous criticisms. And just before we get into the video, in my normal full disclosure way, I want to say that the publishers of the game gave me access via Steam for the purposes of making videos just like this one. As always, for those new to the game, Hell Let Loose is a hardcore FPS game in a milsim style. Means pretty much any gun can kill in a single shot, and efforts to Rambo the other team will be met with frustration and lots of time waiting to respawn. It's arguably between Postscriptum and Squad on one side, and then Battlefield on the other, but it's certainly closer to those first titles in style, just perhaps a little bit more approachable. The recent free weekend showed again that if you're expecting a normal FPS game and try to play it as such, then Hell Let Loose will chew you up. And to be clear, this isn't a game for everyone. If you're looking for COD or a fast-moving BR like Warzone, then reset those expectations. This is about coordination and teamwork over everything. For some it's too much, but for those people who like this kind of experience, placed in arduous situations with strangers and forced to communicate and work to win, then it becomes thoroughly addictive. And with Hell Let Loose, they've forged a path that, like I said, is a little bit more approachable than something in a pure milsim style. And just a quick aside to say, if you are enjoying the video, please do tap the thumb up button. Helps me out with YouTube and discoverability and all stuff like that. And if you tap the subscribe button as well, then that is truly appreciated. Thank you. Let's talk about that new update though. Update 7 has some sizable patch notes and high expectations, with facets of it being trailed in the days leading up to its release. Top billing goes to the huge amount of work that must have gone into the new animation and underlying animation systems that have now been released. That slightly choppy or snappy impression you got from the animations when they transitioned between each other, say from laying prone or standing, is now completely gone. Everything feels believable and higher quality as those animations now glide into each other. It's not just first-person animations though. Third-person animations have also been redone too. There's plenty of nice details like soldiers one-handed carrying their rifles when moving at a full sprint. In addition, it means that mantling has also been redone and feels pretty smooth and responsive now. It's no longer the hit-and-miss chore that it used to be. It's not Battlefield 100% slickness, but it's a massive improvement. Unfortunately, that issue that I talked about last time, where the camera or actual player direction changes as you crawl over some terrain, hasn't been fixed in these updates, and I'm guessing that might actually be a design or game logic issue. Also, things like idle animations seem to be triggering a little bit too often. That's a massive nitpick, but it's also the sort of thing that I'd hope would be easily tweakable with this new animation system. It isn't just animations though. The weapon sounds, something I specifically mentioned being a weak point before, have had a major overhaul. Like the animation changes, there's a developer news post that goes into significant detail about these changes. I'll link to both of those articles in the description below. But the long and short of it is that the weapons no longer give a weak impression when fired. There's talk about whether there's too much muddying base on some weapons. I certainly think there's room to add more impact, volume, and a unique signature when they're fired nearby. But where we are, in my opinion, experiencing a massive improvement from where we were before. It was almost distracting before. The game experience was interrupted by the weapon audio, but I don't feel that same way now. I'm sure there will continue to be improvements and tweaks, but I'm happy to see the game build on these recent successes. And actually, let me just put in some actual audio sound clips for you to hear now. But wait, it isn't just audio-visual changes, there's new content been added to the game too. The headline for that is the introduction of the famous town of Carentan. This map is a faithful, beautiful rendition of a town in the midst of battle, from open countryside to dense urban environment, even down to the docks and other areas that you don't tend to think about when thinking of Carentan. I've had some intense battles in the streets already. The density of the detail here feels like a notch up from anything we've seen before in previous maps. It feels like a rabbit warren sometimes and like a rubble-strewn gully at others. It can mean tough, dangerous fighting over corners for infantry and armor alike. It's a lot of fun and a really nice addition to the game, though on the visual side, I'm not sure that the dogfighting planes above the town look quite right. Can't help shake the idea they kind of look like flies buzzing around a lamp. It would be remiss of me if I didn't point out the performance of this map on release though. It was very poor on the initial release day until the first hotfix. I was getting around a third of the FPS I would expect on other maps. That hotfix did improve matters somewhat, made it playable at least. Though on this old computer that means a maximum of 60 FPS and dipping significantly lower at times, still less than I'd expect from other maps. Confusing this issue is the performance changes we've seen with Update 7 in general. It's clear that there have been a massive number of systemic changes to the game and performance has taken a hit. It's a reminder that this is an in-development title, that games development isn't a straight line of improvements and new content. What's perhaps almost as important is seeing how well a dev team responds, and with Black Matter there's no burying their heads in the sand. A tweet talking about performance was hot on the heels of the new patch landing, and a statement about stability, Carentan and general performance was posted. Soon after that, there was a hotfix that improved things somewhat for me in Carentan. I'd hoped that I could try the second hotfix before making this video, but I decided that it was already a few days after launch and I should really talk about that experience now. I'm still getting some odd drops in performance, even on maps where I would expect to have pretty decent and stable FPS. I can be at 70 FPS for ages and then drop to sub 20 for a moment, and then have it recover again. It's an annoyance that hasn't stopped me enjoying this new update, and I'm relaxed over seeing a dev team respond positively and engage with the community and keeping everyone updated. As this is a situation that is changing, please look at the pinned comment below, and I'll keep that updated with new hotfixes as they're pushed out for this patch. Before we move on, I should also say that there are also a couple of other maps that have had some changes. Foy seemingly has had a lighting and detail pass and is looking better than ever. The snow contrasting with the mud really does look terrific. Also, Utah Beach has had some lighting changes to make it a more overcast day. I did like the brighter map before, I think I actually preferred it if I'm honest, but apparently this is more historically accurate, therefore I'm happy with the change. And also both those maps have had some redesigned areas as well. There have been some substantial changes to the metagame for Hell Let Loose in this patch too. No bigger change, arguably, than the line in the patch notes: garrisons cannot be placed on neutral or enemy-controlled sectors. Garrisons, or side-based spawn points, can no longer be ninja'd into unrealistic flanking positions behind the enemy to allow troops to flood in from that angle. There are a bunch of other changes that I won't list here, and I'll link to them below in the description of course, but the general impression is from the developers trying to add a little bit more stability, structure, and arguably realism to the way fights play out. I have seen some negative feedback about these changes, it requiring a level of teamwork to organize attacking sides that it didn't require before. I can understand the feeling of difference with these changes, but I think we should probably let them soak in for a time before we look at rolling any of them back. We could see a situation where community regulars are the ones who decide to take up the reins of commander and squad lead positions to ensure things like spawn points are used effectively, rather than just requiring the communication of a couple of people as they were before.
What's up there?
In general, the graphics for Hell Let Loose are a definite strength for the game, especially given the other title in the same FPS genre. There's a cinematic quality that other sim-like games don't go for that I'd really enjoy here in this game. There are some odd visual effects I've seen though. That new suppression system is rather an intense feeling to sort of look at. But more on the bug side, there seems to be the tying together of texture quality and game resolution. I have a feeling this might be a straight bug, but if your game doesn't look like it's running at the native resolution of your monitor, sort of like when you have like dynamic resolution set in another game, then in the video options, set the texture quality to low, apply it, then back to epic again, and then reapply it. For me, this makes the game look like it's rendering proper HD again, and makes the world of difference when spotting small movements at a distance. Audio feels like it's in a much stronger place than before this update, but there's definitely still room for improvement with focus on other aspects of the game like explosion audio and other effects. Things like increased footstep audio have made a surprising difference in urban maps like Carentan, and I like that audio's taking more development focus and efforts, and as I said, it felt like it had been left behind somewhat by other aspects of the game. If you are asking me to rank Hell Let Loose against what I would consider to be the reigning champion of weapon sound design, that being Postscriptum, well, I'd say the king is still in that position. From a first-person feeling of impact and drama and authenticity, to hearing the weapons fired close by and then recognizing them, Postscriptum still leads the way in every way for me. But again, I want to emphasize how much of a step forward this update has given Hell Let Loose in this area. It was dramatically behind before, and that gap has now narrowed significantly. Player numbers before this update 7 put it in the same sort of space as the game I just looked at previously actually, Insurgency Sandstorm. It's looking like a couple of thousand peak players on weekdays and 2.5k on weekends. For just before an expansion, I'd say that would represent probably the hardcore fans of the game who are playing the game even when there's no new content out. Anecdotally, I feel like I've never had a tough time finding a game, even at odd times of the day, as long as you don't mind a slightly higher ping. And of course, this isn't the sort of game where a fast-paced nature really feels like it exacerbates high ping issues. People tend to go for populated servers, so I tend to wait a little bit and get into something as close to the 100-player limit as possible. Of course, given the teamwork focus, I'm normally looking for a good clan server as well. The free weekend kicked player numbers up over the 10k level on Saturday, so it looks like there's significant enthusiasm for the game from general players, and there's no price to find out how this game is progressing in early access. So, is it worth playing? If you're the kind of person who likes team and communication focused hardcore FPS titles such as Squad, Postscriptum, Insurgency Sandstorm, then I'd certainly recommend Hell Let Loose as an addition to your arsenal of games. It takes many of the same elements and mixes them together in a different way to those other titles in that genre, and with recent developments, continues to show promise for the future. As with all of those titles to a larger or lesser degree, teamwork is the big differentiator for games like these. Find a good server with like-minded people who want to play the game the way it's meant to, and you'll have more fun than all those 20 kill streaks and pop-up commendation medals combined. The game is you and the other people in your squad and team. It's about what you can organize and win together. But because it's about teamwork and camaraderie, there's an enjoyment even in just being on the losing side but having victories of your own. I know that I'd certainly pick the losing side with a great squad over the winning side with a bad one every single time. Hell Let Loose is £24.99 in the UK. It's sometimes on sale in the regular Steam events or during their free play weekends. I'm of course interested to know what you think of Hell Let Loose. Have you played the game before? What do you think of Update 7? Or are you someone who's tried other titles like Squad? Or maybe you're completely new to the genre? Leave me your powerful thoughts and feelings by leaving a comment below right now. I'll of course be reading every single one of them, like always. If you enjoyed this video, please do tap the thumb up button and the subscribe button and the bell so you know when the next video is ready. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.